I found a missing piece of information this week's parsha, by the way. I'm talking about the annual cycle. We'll mention the triennial cycle. So one of the theses that I had going all this time was a way to explain the numbers in the book of Deuteronomy without resorting to midrash. Which tribes had what population, why certain tribes grew, and why certain tribes shrunk. You would have expected that there's certain natural growth among every tribe. There are plagues happening, and there's also, people who just leave. Just like today, here in the state of Israel, we have a brain drain. There's a population drain happening. Youngsters go out of the country. Do you know how many Israelis are living in South Florida now? What is it, millions? No, it's a pretty Israeli place. Everybody's Israeli in South Florida. I already told you about my experiences there. You remember the Kiddush and everything.
I don't remember.
Okay, I guess this is a joke we put on YouTube. I went to South Florida, and I woke up at like 5 o'clock in the morning in December, jet lagged. I was there for 3 days. The shul, which I had to show up for davening, was davening at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I walked 20 blocks to a shul with which I was familiar back in the day, from some 20 years ago. They have a sort of Chabad minyan, there's Sephardic minyan, but the Sephardim daven Vasikin. And the minyan there at this place, this Sephardic Vasikin minyan, was basically the clientele you get here at the Vasikin minyan, at the rabbis, or at the other 3 Vasikin minyan here on the yeshuv. Everybody's an Israeli Sephardic guy. So it was basically that. That's what the minyan was. I was the only American guy there. And afterwards, they had Kiddush, and they honored me with saying Kiddush for them. And I told them in Hebrew, "Oh, you're honoring me with Kiddush because I'm the guest from Chutz La'aretz." Okay? The American guy lives in Israel, and all these Israelis live in South Florida. That's how it is. So people leave. That's why you might expect that certain tribes might have suffered some losses. Like the Netziv points out, when the second census was taken, basically it was a call. Jews had settled throughout the land of the Amorites, the Transjordan. The Netziv writes this, and there were two whole tribes that said, "We just want to stay here. We don't want to be part of all the people show up. Okay, we're joining the Jewish army to get parts of land of Israel." Could you imagine if a Jewish man says, and the Gemara in Yoma assumes this, that you know what, we're just out of here, just like Yisro picked up and left. Certain Jews picked up and left. They did not want to fight for the land of Canaan, and Moses didn't force them, right? He even told two old tribes, "You don't want to participate. You don't want to. I think it's really wrong, but I can't force you to participate. I will not give you land if you do not participate in the conquest, though." So many people picked up and left, and that is why you look, the final population of the tribes of Israel in the second half of the book of Numbers is approximately 2,000 less than it was at the beginning. Yeah, it's a total drop off of about 2,000, give or take 200 or so. So you look at individual tribes, you find that the general rule is the tribes that things are going good for them are the ones that grew. There was one problem, the details of this I can go into, and that's why you have to get my upcoming book, God willing, where you go into it explaining everything. The explanation that, well,
I'll buy it immediately.
Okay, so, but the point is, one of the things I'm trying to address is, tribe of Shimon starts out at about 59,000 and drops to 22,000 or 24,000, whatever it is. That's precipitous. So Rashi says the 24,000 who died in that plague at the end were all from Shimon. Rashi, 59 minus 24,000 is 35,000.
Yeah.
And that doesn't account for the natural growth, but they're still really low. And it doesn't seem that it was just affecting Shimon. And how do you explain all the other tribes' loss? The whole nation on a whole is down 2,000. So I try to go into that, explaining what it is. My explanation for the small size of, for example, Levi and Shimon is the one that seems to be that you get from Genesis, which was the Levi and Shimon were not to be getting real tribal portions, and that's why they just decided, we're out of here. Shimon lived to the south. Basically, people down to the south of the camp are the disenchanted, disenfranchised, and disillusioned. So the tribes of Reuben and Gad, who are Shimon's neighbors, also drop off, and they're so unenthusiastic about coming to the land of Israel that what? They even tell Moses, "Can we just stay out of this? Can we just sit this one out?" Shimon basically voted with his feet. His tribe is basically drop off. There's not a lot of Shimons who are showing up at the main camp right across the Jordan River from Jericho to say, "Yes, count us in." So Shimon is dangerously small. Levi is even smaller. Levi is about the same size as Shimon, but counting the children. says ben chodesh v'mala. The Shimons are counted from age 20. Levi's even smaller, but the pasuk says explicitly why. Ki lo nitan lahem nachala b'toch b'nei Yisrael. There's a longer YouTube video I put out about this on my own channel. Go look at it, and it says it very explicitly. The Levites didn't huspakdu, huspakadu, which, as Mepharshim point out, is a combination of two vowel forms. It's a hitpa'el and a hufal. Hitpa'el means they were not counted. They didn't show up to be counted. Hitpaked means show up, like soldiers, and show up and everybody be take formation. And they're no hoof could do. They weren't counted by anybody or put into anybody's place originally because Moshe Rabbeinu didn't get instructions what to do with them. But this time it just says lo hakadu. Why? Lo nitam lahel nachala b'toch b'nei Israel. They didn't show up on their own and they weren't counted. A lot of Levites, who were the most fierce tribe, or the fiercest tribe of Israel, has been told, you're not to go to war. You're not fighting for anything. This war of conquest, you fight in wars, the defensive wars, but wars of conquest, you were not doing anything. So, and you're not going to get real nachala. At least if you're Shevet Shimon, you'll get a homestead. But Shevet Levi's told, you will have urban living. You will live in a walled city, and there'll be public land outside for if you have animals and for parks. But you will not be agricultural. You will not have the opportunity to be, let's say, a guy of the tribe of Usher and have a whole grove of olive trees. You will not be a Judahite with a gigantic wheat field like, let's say, Boaz. You cannot have that benefit. Yes. So it says explicitly that's why the Levites are small. There's one kasha that I was always dealing with in putting this all together that I found last week, thank God, an answer to this question. And that is, the tribe of Yosef is the second largest tribe combined at the first count. Yehuda is basically 72,000, and Yosef is 40 of Ephraim plus 32,000 of Manasseh at 72,000. Okay. So Yosef is quite large, 72,000. That tribe is the enthusiastic tribe. Both the spies from Ephraim and Yehuda are the only loyal spies when the times come, because their tribes are the leader tribes. They have the most to gain. Okay. So the Yehudas never have a problem. They want to go forward and lead land. They're someone who's a Nachshon, like Nachshonim, are the ones who, they're pioneers. So I understand why Yehuda's the largest tribe. Yehuda gains about only 2,000 in the next census. The tribes of Yisachar and Zevulun were slightly below average, or average-sized tribes. No, maybe above average at the first count. They're in the 50,000s, or just below 50,000 in the first count. In the second count, they're into 60,000s. They surpassed, done. So they got past the way I think done started. I could be wrong in the numbers. Someone check me, fact check this. But the point is, Yisachar and Zevulun are doing very well afterwards, well above average afterwards. So I understand why the tribes in the east, they're the ones who are enthusiastic about this. The combined tribe of Yosef beats Yehuda the second time around. They're combined 84,000 or so. 52,000 from Manasseh, 32,000 from Ephraim. So Yosef's tribe is by far the one that's going to be leading this thing. Ephraim, Yehoshua ben Nun is the hereditary leader of the tribe of Ephraim. His grandfather was Elishama ben Amihud. Yehoshua is qualified to be the leader of his tribe, but not only that, he's going to be the leader of Am Yisrael. As the Rambam says, he is the king. Okay, he is the leader of Am Yisrael. He's the leader of this whole expedition. So I expect his tribe to be the most. Yes, we are the most into this. We're doing this. That's why it says, by the way, the parsha right after the numbers is the appointment of Yehoshua. Yeah. Okay. So, and also it's a tribe of Menashe who even have women who are sticking up for we want land. Yeah. We want to share. This explains the growth of Menashe. You know what is not explained? At the beginning, Menashe was 32,000 approximately. Ephraim's 40,000. Those are both modest sizes. They're both below average for among the 12. If you drive 603,000, whatever is Shvamiot b'chamishim. Well, I think that's the exact number. 603,550 was the total at the end, at the first count. So Ephraim and Manasseh are, on their own, if you divide that by 12, about average 50,000 is the size of the tribe. But Manasseh and Ephraim are both below average. Combined, they're well above average. At the end, Ephraim has shrunk 8,000. Manasseh has gained 20,000. If Manasseh, like I was just saying, they're the most enthusiastic, it's their leader is leading this whole conquest. Why is Manasseh shrunk?
Or why is Ephraim, right?
Yeah, sorry, Ephraim. Why has Ephraim shrunk? That's Ephraim. Manasseh has grown by leaps and bounds. And the answer is given by Rashi in Sefer Bereshis. right? It's something that you should ask about, because the question is, wait, did it happen in practice? And the Tziv says, yes, it did happen in practice. Yaakov Vita blessed Yosef. Umolav ticha asher hulavta harihem lecha yihu, al shem ha'chayim yikaru b'nachal atham. God blessed through Jacob, Ephraim and Menashe, saying they count as tribes. That's the blessing to Yosef, is two tribes come out of Yosef, Ephraim and Menashe. But not only that, wait a minute. Yaakov told them, if you have any more children, remember, Ephraim and Menashe were born before the famine, it says. Yosef Yuladu Shnei Banim B'terem, okay, before the famine started. Jacob showed up 2 years into the famine in Egypt. Jacob's now blessing Ephraim and Menashe 17 years after this. Ephraim and Menashe are in their young 20s. So wait a minute. He's telling Yosef, if you have any more children now, they will count as part of either Ephraim or Menashe. That's what Rashi says. You have another child. You'll have Ploni and Yerachmiel ben Yosef. Their descendants forever will have to fit into Ephraim and Menashe. And Tziv says, and that's how it happened. So when you look at the original count of Ephraim and Menashe, which by the way leaves out details, it doesn't tell you how he's divided into families. Why are those families only mentioned in last week's parsha? Because those families are the ones that ultimately that's among whom the lands were divided.
Yeah.
But the first time around, whatever families were, it didn't work out that way. So there was a redistribution. Ephraim and Menashe in the first count include people who were not descended from Ephraim and Menashe specifically. And that's unique to their tribes. As I pointed out, why is Serach mentioned? Rashi says, because she was still alive. Okay, but is she getting land? And the answer is yes. Serach was entitled to land. Why? Because she's a daughter of Asher. And now she's coming back to her property. Where's she going to go? Is she going to fit into any of her brother's families? The families are named after her brothers and her nephews. The tribes of Asher is divided into families from Asher's children and grandchildren. Where is Serach going to go? She is not a descendant of her brothers or her nephews, so she cannot be among those families. So she has to get her own piece. She's entitled to her own piece, and that's why she's getting it. And it mentions Benos Tzlafchad. Why? Because they are going to inherit pieces of land, so they're in the count. And why does it give the whole story about Korach, Dasan, and Aviram again? Because Korach, Dasan, and Aviram, even though they left Egypt and they were entitled to a piece, like Tzlafchad, like the Benos Tzlafchad said, he was not part of Korach's rebellion, so he's entitled to peace. Why? Anybody involved with Korach lost, because they all died and all their descendants, except for who was involved in Korach's rebellion or descended from Korach, but still got land. Bnei Korach lo mesu. Bnei Korach survived, and they got to join with the other Levites. So that's why it mentions very specific. The Torah doesn't. None of these details are coincidence. So if you have a person like Serach who's not fitting into any tribal family, so they have to be mentioned on their own. But in Yosef's tribe, if you have a descendant of Yosef who is not a descendant of Yosef's first two children, he still has to fit in somewhere. But the Torah never told us. So what do? They had a random lottery. You, Ploni, who are alive today, you left Egypt at the age of 35. For the land distribution that we're intending to do just a year after leaving Egypt, you will be part of Ephraim, and you will be part of Menashe. You will be part of Ephraim. Ephraim, is that they did? They just divided them up equally? How do they decide where these guys fit in? We don't have rules from the Torah. And presumably the second time around, that was also the case. There's no strict rule that we've inherited. These non-Ephraim and Menashe Josephites, where do they fit in? So that's it. So the tribe grows. The tribe of Yosef was 72,000. The first time around, more people are sticking around with Ephraim. They're their neighbors, whatever it is. The second time around, the tribe has grown by leaps and bounds. Now 84,000, by far the largest tribe in Israel by 10,000 men. However, there's a lot of randos, and a lot more of them are hanging out with Menashe for whatever reason. That's a lot of them found themselves in Menashe. They're liking that group. Remember, this is a military formation. It's all Yotzei Tzava Yisrael. The way it worked out is that Menashe has a larger army.
Does it mention the families here?
It mentions families, but the non-Yosephite, the later children are not mentioned by family. They seem to just be tag-alongs.
Why wouldn't they be mentioned as
Families? Because
in the tribe?
So they could be, because it says Elah b'nei Ephraim. The families that came out of Ephraim were all children of Ephraim. Same thing with Menashe. And Menashe families are all Most of
Nice.
Menashe's families are third generation from Menashe. That's the other thing.
Does it go by family? Does it give family totals?
No, family totals are not
Right.
given. So the family tells you
Okay.
where people
Works
settled.
out.
Family tells you, so that's the answer. I really like that answer. That's Rashi's answer, by the way. Rashi says what Rashi says in Bereshis accounts for the fact that tribe of Yosef as a whole, of course, grew. But why is Ephraim presumably shrinking within Yosef? Because Ephraim always included people who were not from Ephraim anyways, and Menashe includes people who were not from Menashe. Just like the Netziv. Netziv wrote a parish called Ha'amek Daber. It's two imperatives, not Ha'emek Davar, or,
Yeah.
okay?
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.